Welcome to Mode Bespoke. I'm Atenas, and for today's tutorial we're going to be working on the Stella bag. So let's get started. So let's quickly go over some of the materials we're going to be using for the project. We're going to use two different size hooks. The first one is a 6mm hook, which is what we're going to use for the purse. The second one is a 9mm hook, and this one we're going to use just for the strap. So if you don't have a 9mm hook or you don't want to use one, you can use the 6mm hook for the entire project. Next, you're going to need 4 wooden rings. You can also use plastic ones if you prefer, but I'm going to use 4 of these little wooden ones. They are about 1.25 inches in diameter. And the last part here is our yarn, and for the yarn I just use a cotton yarn. This is a medium, number 4 worsted, whatever you want to call it. It's just a medium cotton yarn. So measurements across this purse is 9 inches, and in length, or in height, it is 11 inches. So something to keep in mind about this purse is that this netting part is stretchy. So it isn't going to stretch a lot because we only used it for just a small portion of the purse, but it will affect the length of your purse once you put items in it. So you don't want to make a really tall purse in case you're adjusting this, simply because this netting part will stretch. Another thing that stretches quite a bit is going to be this strap. Once we crochet it, we're going to have to pull on it just to make sure that it is not going to stretch longer than what we want it to be. Let's go over the construction of this bag really quickly. In case anyone wants to resize it, you'll have a general idea how we're going to be putting this together, so you can change the size, either make it bigger, smaller, whatever you want. So we're going to begin with our initial chain, which is going to be this part right here. And then we're going to add some increases for 4 rows. So at the end of the row, we're going to crochet 3 single crochets at each end. That's going to give us an increase and make our purse wider. And then we're just going to crochet the height. So as you're increasing, as you can see here, it's going to curve the bottom of the bag. You're going to want to measure the top part. That's going to be how wide your bag is going to be. All you're going to do then is crochet single crochets to maintain that same width, and you're good to go. All right, so let's begin with a slip stitch. So to make a slip stitch, we're going to grab our yarn, wrap it around 2 fingers. We're going to insert our hook into this front loop. We're going to grab the back yarn and pull it through the loop. Like so. Now we're going to move our hands, and we're going to tighten the knot by pulling on the 2 threads of yarn right below the knot. If you pull on them individually, it will tighten the knot so that it fits snugly around our hook. Now we're going to chain 30. To make a chain, you're going to wrap the yarn around your hook. You're going to pull this top loop through the bottom loop for 1. So we're going to yarn over and pull through this bottom loop, 2, yarn over, and we're going to pull through, 3, yarn over, pull through, 4, and just continue until you have made a chain of 30 stitches. Once you have your chain, you're going to skip the first stitch, and you're going to go into the second stitch from your hook. We're going to single crochet 3 stitches into this 1 stitch. So insert your hook into the second stitch from your hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Once you have 2 loops on your hook, we're going to yarn over and pull this top loop through the 2 bottom loops on your hook. And that's a single crochet. So insert your hook into that same stitch, so the one we just worked into, yarn over, pull up a loop. Once we have our 2 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2. So now we have 2 single crochets. We're going to insert our hook into that same stitch one last time, yarn over, pull up a loop. Once you have your 2 loops, you're going to yarn over and pull through both of them for a final single crochet. So now we have 3 single crochets in that last stitch. Now in all of the stitches along our chain, up until you get to this very last one, we're going to crochet a single crochet, just 1 single crochet into each stitch. So going into the next stitch, we're going to insert our hook, pull up a loop, and close our single crochet. And then we're going to make another single crochet in the stitch next to that, and then single crochet in the next stitch, and so forth until you get to that last stitch of the row. So we're going to repeat what we did here with our 3 single crochets in that final stitch. But let me finish with these stitches real quick, and then we can work on that final stitch together. So once you've reached the final stitch, we're going to do what we did at the beginning, which is single crochet 3 stitches into that last stitch. So it's going to look a bit like this. To make things a little bit easier, I'm going to use a stitch marker, which is totally optional. You can use a bobby pin, you can use a safety pin, whatever you have, even a piece of yarn will work. But place it on that very first single crochet. That's going to help you keep track of the beginning of the round. So let's go back to this last stitch, and we're going to single crochet 3 stitches into that one stitch. So that's going to give us a nice round increase. So it's going to help make our purse wider. So if you're going to readjust the sizing on this purse and you want to make it wider, you're going to want to make a few more rows of increases. And that's how you would make the increase, with the 3 single crochets. Once you've completed your 3 single crochets in that last stitch, we're going to single crochet 1 stitch into every stitch until we get to this stitch marker. So this is the round that we just crocheted. So go into the next stitch, which is right here, and we're going to single crochet 1. And then go to the next stitch and single crochet 1, and repeat this in all of the stitches along the bottom side of the chain. So I'll finish these quickly here so that we get to our stitch marker. And once you get to the stitch marker, you know you have completed 1 round. Alright, and there is our first round. So we've increased on either side of the round. So it's right here with the single crochet 3s on either side. And we've just single crocheted 1 into every stitch along the sides. So for our round number 2, we're going to begin the round here where the stitch marker is. So that is stitch 1 of round 2. We're just going to single crochet because what we want to get to is the top centermost stitch. So I'm going to say this one right here is the top centermost, right up here on top. We're going to single crochet 3 into that stitch. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So that's going to give us the increase, and it's going to curve our work around. And then all we have to do is just single crochet into every stitch along the side of our work up until we get to this end. So just like we did the single crochet here at the top, you're going to repeat that on the bottom end, and you're going to single crochet 1 along the sides of your work. You're going to complete 3 rounds. That way by the end of this work, you're going to have a total of 4 rounds. So increase on either end, single crochet along the sides, complete this for 3 rounds so that your work looks like this, and then here we're going to have a total of 4 rounds. All right, so I'm at the end of round 4, so this is the beginning of round 5. Now from round 5 to round 30, we're no longer going to increase along the sides. So let's take a quick look here. So this is a really tiny sample of our purse, but you can still see the curve here at the bottom. So we finished all of our increases, and that's as wide as our purse is going to be. Now all we have to add is height, or length, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But we're no longer increasing at the top centermost stitch. We're just going to single crochet in every stitch from here on out. So beginning of round 5, we just single crochet 1 into every stitch along the round. Repeat this for a total of 25 rounds so that you end up with a total of 30 rounds. So once you complete your work, it's going to look a bit like this. So we've completed the increases. Now we are working on the height. And then once you complete that, I'll show you how to do the netting. But work on your 25 rows of single crochets, and then I'll see you again in a moment to show you the netting. Alright, so we're at the netting now. So to do this, it's quite simple. All you have to do is a chain 5. We're going to skip 3 stitches, and you're going to single crochet in the 4th stitch. We're going to repeat this over and over again for the first round. So chain 5, skip 3, single crochet into stitch number 4. So let's take a look at our tiny sample. So once you have completed your 25 rounds and you're on row 30, we're going to begin our netting, which is going to be row 31. We're going to begin with a chain 5. So we're going to yarn over and pull through for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next, you are going to skip 3 stitches. So let's get a close up here. We've got 1, 2, 3. So skip 3, and you're going to single crochet in the 4th stitch from your hook. So insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and single crochet. And that's it. All you have to do now is just repeat chain 5, skip 3, single crochet in the 4th stitch until you complete the round. So here's my chain 5, and then let me move this yarn right here. We're going to skip the next 3 stitches, and we're going to single crochet in the 4th stitch from our hook, chain 5, skip 3, and single crochet in stitch number 4. There you go. So just keep working on this, make your way around your purse, and then I will see you again in just a moment. So we've made it to the end. So here we go. We have our last stitches. You should have ended up with 3 single crochets. If you didn't, that's okay. You're just going to skip all of those stitches that you have there. So whether it's 3, if it's 2, 5, however many you have, you're going to chain 5, skip them all, and go into that chain space right here. So that very first chain 5 we did at the beginning of the row, you're going to insert your hook into the chain space, and you're going to single crochet. So yarn over, pull up a loop, and then single crochet. So that was round 1 of the netting. So the next 6 rounds, because you need a total of 7 rounds of netting, so the next 6 rounds are going to be a lot easier. So all you're going to do now is just chain 5 and single crochet in the next chain space. So this one right here, and then chain 5, single crochet. So let's begin here. We're going to chain 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to go to the next chain space, which is this one right here. We're going to insert our hook into the chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop, and single crochet. And then chain 5. And there's 5. Oh, there we go. We're going to go into the next chain space, which is right here. And then we're just going to single crochet into the chain space. So that's all there's to it. So for the next 6 rows, you need to create this netting stitch. So to make it a little bit easier to keep track of where your row begins, or your round, I'm going to switch my stitch markers. So this one down here, since we no longer need it in the purse, I'm going to place it right here. So on that very first chain 5 we did. And that'll just help me keep track of my rounds. So work 6 rounds of netting, so you have a total of 7. And then we're going to work on this top border. So let's crochet this top border. This part is just made up of a series of single crochets, so it is quite simple. The very first round, however, does require a little bit of adjusting because we are transitioning from the netting to our single crochets. So to make that transition, we're just going to single crochet 3 stitches into that chain space. We already have 1 made, so we need to single crochet 2 more into the chain space. So make sure it is in the chain space and not the stitches themselves. So we have to single crochet 2 more stitches. So there's 1, 2, and now we have a total of 3 single crochets in the chain space. We're going to go to that single crochet, and we are going to single crochet. So single crochet into the single crochet from the previous round. We're going to go to the next chain space, and we're going to single crochet 3. So there's 1, and then 2, and then 3. And now we're going to single crochet in the single crochet from our previous round. So we're just going to single crochet in here, and then single crochet 3 in the chain space. So you're just going to repeat this all the way around so that you end up with a foundation for your single crochets for our next 3 rounds. So repeat this. I'll see you again here in just a moment. Once you have made your way around, so I've got my 3 single crochets, all I'm left with is that final single crochet. So here are the 3 in that chain space. So my final single crochet is going to be worked in that first single crochet from our round. So the round we just completed. So that's going to close up this round, and we're going to crochet 3 rounds of single crochets right after this. So there we go. We've closed our round, and now we're going to work 3 rounds of single crochet. So beginning in this next stitch, we're going to single crochet here, 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 all of the stitches all the way around. So you have a total of 3 rounds, 4 if you count the foundation single crochets we just made. But once you have completed your 4 rows, you're going to be left with a nice border at the top of the purse. Now you'll notice it's going to be a little bit narrower than the bottom part of the purse, but this is to help keep all of our items in the purse since we don't want to make the top any wider than the bottom. So your border should look a bit like this once you've completed all 4 rounds. Now to finish off that section, so say this is the very last stitch of round 4. How are you going to finish this work? All right, so you're going to slip stitch in that next stitch. So I've completed round 4. Here's the first stitch of round 5. I'm just going to insert my hook into the stitch, then I'm going to pull this top loop through the bottom loop. And that is a slip stitch. And then we just chain 1. The chain 1 is going to make a little knot right here at the bottom. We're going to cut a long tail of yarn, and I mean long. You're going to want about a foot or so of yarn, so you want 12 or plus inches here. You're going to use that yarn to sew on the ring. So make sure you cut a really nice long tail end. You want the ring to have a lot of support so that it actually holds the shoulder strap up. So make sure you make it nice and long, and then you cut it. So let me cut this. I'm going to start working on the shoulder strap, and then I'll show you how to put it all together. All right, so this is the shoulder strap. We're going to begin this one also with really long tail ends. Again, we're using these to sew the ring onto the purse. So you want a lot of yarn here because you want a lot of support for the shoulder strap. Just like we did with the top of the purse, you want to leave somewhere around the ballpark of about 12 inches at least in yarn. And that's the very least. So leave more if you can. All right, so now let's get to the stitching. I'm going to be using my 9mm hook. If you don't want to use a 9mm hook, you can use any hook size you want. I just like the stitching to be a little bit wider because it's more comfortable. You can use that 6mm hook. You're just going to have to add an extra stitch or two to make it about an inch wide. So that's about the length, or the width, sorry, of my shoulder strap. You can make it as wide as you want. The wider, the more comfortable your shoulder strap is going to fit. So if you use a smaller hook, you may want to make it a little bit wider just so that it doesn't dig into your shoulder. So we're going to stitch 5 stitches across. So we're going to begin with a chain 5, and then we're just going to single crochet for a total of 50 rows. So let's start with the shoulder strap. So we're going to leave that super long tail end of yarn, and then you're going to you're going to slip knot. So wrap the yarn around 2 fingers and create a slip knot. Tighten it so it's nice and tight on your hook, and we're going to begin with a chain 5. Now for our first row, we're going to work into that second stitch from our hook. So skip the first one, go right into the second one, and just single crochet. So yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2. We're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then single crochet in the stitch after that, and we single crochet in the final stitch. And there we go. So that is row 1. For row 2, we chain 1, turn your work around, and beginning on the first stitch of the row, so right here, we're just going to single crochet again. So just single crochet into every stitch. So there's 1. We're going to go into the next stitch, and that's 2. Got this one right here. So across, you should just be crocheting 4 single crochets. So then there's this one, that's stitch number 4. And there we go, that's row 2. So to begin row 3, you're going to chain 1, turn your work around, and then just single crochet in all 4 of the stitches of the row. So just remember that if you are using a J hook, or the J hook I guess is the 6mm hook, you might have to make a few more stitches across. So you might want to start with maybe a chain 6 or even a chain 7, so you make a wider strap. Because the wider your strap, the more comfortable it's going to fit. So a really narrow strap is going to dig into your shoulder. So especially if you add a couple more items to your purse and it's a bit heavy. So anyway, that's how we're going to work the shoulder strap. You need a total of 50 rows. So we've just crocheted 3. Work a total of 50. It's going to be about 17 inches in length. And leave a long tail end of yarn at the other end as well, because we do need to add the wood ring on both sides. Now make a second shoulder strap just like this one. You're going to need your wooden rings, and then you're going to need your yarn or tapestry needle, and we're going to sew the first wooden ring onto the strap. So once you've threaded your yarn through your needle, you're going to need your wooden ring, and then just hold it up here against the end of the strap, and you're just going to sew from the strap. So just go into any of the stitches here along the end of, and this is the narrow end of the shoulder strap, and then you're going to insert the needle into the center of the wooden ring, and that's it. So you're just going to do this over and over along the narrow end of the shoulder strap. Remember that the more times you go around, so across the entire narrow end of the shoulder strap, the more support that your purse is going to have. So you want to sew as much as you possibly can on here. That's why you needed to leave a really long tail end of yarn. So just continue to sew along the bottom. And once you have finished sewing on the yarn, I'll show you how to make a quick knot and then just weave in your ends. So I've got a little bit of a tail end left here in the yarn, and I'm just going to make a knot here at the end. So let's pull on the wooden ring, make sure it's all snug, we have all the stitches we want, and then we're just going to make a little knot here at the end. And once you knot this, you're going to want to weave in your ends. If you don't know how to weave in your ends, I do have a video tutorial for that. I'll link it down in the description box below, so go check out that video if you need it. Once you finish sewing on your wooden ring, repeat this on the other side of the strap, and then with the second shoulder strap as well, so that all your shoulder straps look like this. You're going to have a wooden ring on either side. And now you're ready to sew them onto your purse. Sew your wooden ring about an inch towards the center of the purse. So for one of the 4 rings, you're going to have the yarn, the long tail end of yarn that you left. So use that tail end to sew on one of the wooden rings, and then you're going to have to cut long pieces of yarn to sew on the rest of them. So cut a nice long thread of yarn, just knot it on one side, and then just sew your wooden ring onto the bag. You're going to sew one shoulder strap to one side of the purse. So pick a shoulder strap, and then you're going to sew both of the rings that go with that shoulder strap to the front of the bag. Do the same with the other shoulder strap, sewing both of those wooden rings onto the back. Once you finish sewing on all of the wooden rings to the bag, just make sure to weave in any remaining ends of yarn, and you are finished. You can find the written pattern for this project on my website, and that's modebespoke.com. The link will be in the description box below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, just hit the subscribe button. I post videos every week. And if you want to see more of my work, you can always follow me on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all again in the next tutorial.